Once again, here we are on a Tuesday evening. I'm Scott Stevens with a look at a little bit of weather around the country and a few other highlights from places where we got some interesting video, either flooding or aurora. We've had a lot of aurora from the northern hemisphere lately. The southern aurora, honestly, it's very difficult to get shots of because there are very few populated locations at those latitudes, unlike the northern hemisphere where outside of the Bering Strait, outside of the North Sea, we've got people living. You go to the southern hemisphere and South Africa doesn't quite get far enough south, nor does New Zealand. Tasmania might, and then the far southern tip of South America through the far southern portions of Argentina and Chile, somewhat more so the Falkland Islands, but we just don't get the photography from down there simply because the points to view it are exceedingly limited. All right, let's begin this and head over to Twitter if you want to drop in and see what's going on there. Weather Scots is the tag. Dakota Smith, always good for an animation, a good old GIF. He'll peruse the satellite imagery, which is exceptional these days with the new GOES birds up there, satellites in geostationary orbit with all kinds of other tech. We're just generations ahead of where we were even 15 years ago. It's really kind of nice. So what they've done is superimposed the lightning strikes, denoted obviously by the flash, on top of the visible satellite imagery. And you could see this storm racing across Missouri and then through northern Illinois as we headed towards day's end. And then all of these billows, very, very curious billows, there are curious explanations for them. They've been in the textbooks for a long time, but they are integral into rainfall. They're just integral. All right, so that's one aspect. All right, Chris Martinez Martez could agree more. If climate change explains the active Atlantic hurricane season, then it can't explain the quiet season in the eastern Pacific. I suppose warmer Atlantic sea surface temperatures play a role, but La Nina is the largest player. And we were seeing that with an assumption in the news that the active hurricane season in the Atlantic caused by climate change, maybe, but causal linkage likely strongly related to La Nina. This also helps explains the lower activity in Eastern Pacific, and you can begin to see in this blue, and that may go larger. Here we go. There's a huge plume of upwelling, bringing the cool waters from below. Cool waters typically nutrient rich. So those are very, very powerful plumes to upwell, and then we see the sunlight hit the top of that plume, and then we have growth. And that is what is so important for marine life. Elsewhere, the North Pacific has been warm and at times very warm. So warm it's been called the warm blob. And as we see a Gulf Stream-like circulation across Japan and then returning into the North Pacific, much like we do in the Atlantic, where we have the Gulf Stream coming in off the coast of Africa through the Eastern Antilles and then through the Caribbean, not necessarily the Caribbean, but on the islands to the north of the Caribbean and then up into the Gulf Stream, and you can see that plume of warmer water as it then intersects and eddies off. It curls off. But as we move farther out into the North Atlantic, it begins to cool off as compared to normal. And where we have white through the Arctic Ocean and so forth, and also white where we've got the edge of the ocean, and then this is the ice field, because we're not going to, temperatures are temperatures. Once we've got ice versus other things, we're at ice. All right, good snows today across Nebraska and into South Dakota. A couple inches there for a few towns. Creighton, Nebraska at about 8.5 inches. Parker, South Dakota, not quite as much. And then we have ice because on that boundary, and when you've got things so warm as we have had for the last couple of days, we really begin to, let's just say the cold air up above rushes in, and things are still warm down below for a while. And then it cools off, and above we still have that warmer layer. So the cold air is heaviest, it comes down, it scoots in lowest, cools off the power lines, cools off the tree branches, and the grass, the blades of the grass, until that depth of cold air rushes in, and then it all becomes full on snow. We have that little boundary where ice is definitely the potential. I did have rice for dinner. And here we are, Scribner, Nebraska. We can see this is what Oklahoma was dealing with maybe 2 weeks ago. where that ice storm just would not end, and they ended up with the better part of a half inch to even over an inch in some locations through Oklahoma City. This excursion into the ice fields, into the ice storm, not quite as intense though as you got farther to the north, farther to the west. Out where the atmosphere is deeper into the cold air, it quickly turned off to snow, and several to many inches has fallen. And that cold air pressed on to the east along with the snow. Alexandria, Minnesota tonight. As of folks, maybe, the big old trucks, you don't have to drive that slow until you need to, and sometimes you just don't know when that boundary is. All right, short video of the intense winds I intercepted near Deer Grove, Illinois, about 30 minutes ago. This back, if this was posted 6 hours ago, that it would put about the late afternoon in Illinois. So strong winds is that very potent boundary that is the introduction of the cold air. We'll look at that on the surface maps in just a bit. Good old Etta just does not want to let go. And as we talked about on Friday and even again yesterday, it looked like Florida was going to have yet another encounter with this storm that will not say goodbye. And it does look like we've had alerts. It's going to graze the coast just west of Tampa and then recurve potentially back towards the Tallahassee area, around that bend, but it's still a minimal, well, it's actually a strong tropical storm now, and if it were to intensify, it would likely just be a minimal hurricane. Right, Robin? Interesting lightning. You ain't seen nothing yet. The tragedy immortalized by the famous song, this being the 45th anniversary of the Edmund Fitzgerald deck laden with iron ore out on the Great Lakes and stuck in an intense November storm. 10-word radio message to another ship shortly before vanishing from radar. I believe this was 1975. That was, man, I remember 75. All right, chilly night and early morning is in store. Temperatures in the 20s and 30s, common by Wednesday morning. This for Green Country in northeastern Oklahoma, Tulsa, Muskogee, Bartlesville, up to Miami, Fayetteville, McAllister, Ocalaga. This was home back in the early 90s. That was the 80 I worked in, and Tulsa was good to me. Tulsa was good to me. All right, Weather Nation, more snow, Wilmar, Minnesota, as the cold air rolls on through. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, on the back end of the storm, a couple inches falling there today. Another lightning strike, this particular one in Spain. Robin, as the guys are at the soccer pitch, and this is when you run for cover, and sometimes you don't leave the field soon or quickly enough. You think, we can get one more round in, and no, it would just, that's awfully close. No one injured, but that doesn't mean that the hair didn't stand up on the back of your neck all the way down the spine and then into the legs. So this is where we have tropical storm watches and then warnings up for Eta as we move a couple of days ahead. Panorama view over the inversion layers. We look into Austria. When you can get to those cold mornings, we begin to see that atmosphere and condensing and going very still. The moisture condenses back closest to the ground because the ground cools off first. You ever wonder why the frost is on the car and on the grass and not under the tree? Well, it's exposed, and when you have a wide area exposed on these longer nights, we tend to get that kind of formation. All right, into the Pacific, because what's happening in the Pacific ultimately will impact the rest of the states, and we've had a strong ridge anchored over the western states. It's kind of weakened a little bit. It's given up a little space, and that will allow for some moisture to roll on through. We just have a deep trough here, so Hawaii looking kind of quiet for a time to come. You get a couple of really nice days. Then way almost over the horizon, we have Eta. We'll get a little bit closer view of that. But first, I want to look at this because we have some snow on the ground, and we can see the snow across Nebraska, South Dakota. It was easier to see earlier today across the Black Hills, but even in the Colorado Rockies, there's snow. We can see that in the visible imagery as this beast wound up. This is the comma head associated with today's storm, and then it begins to, let's see if we can animate that just a little more quickly, and then it races towards the east. So this was the introduction of a reintroduction, I should say, of more winter-like weather to those points on the back to the east. And as we looked the forecast for the next 10 days or so. Actually, it's the 16-day anomaly. The Pacific Northwest still looks like it'll net above normal precip. The central Gulf coastal states at or below normal. Florida probably in relation more to Tropical Storm Eta above, especially on the western side, than the western Great Lakes states and the coastal areas of the Carolinas. The record heat now confined for one last day along the eastern seaboard. No low minimums, no low maximums, and then we have a couple of warm nights ahead. This is tonight that's in place right now with anticipated of about 130 record warm lows for tonight. So all the way from just outside of Jackson, Mississippi, up through East Tennessee, through the Appalachians, into the Keystone State, up into the Empire State, and then into Concord, New Hampshire. 53 degrees to wake up to tomorrow morning. So that is a warm night. Let's see if we can't find what that record is. 53, 51 would have been the warmest low set back in '02, with the record way back to 1868. And the warmest today, 91 degrees, 2 miles southwest of Fowler's Bluff, Florida, 9 below, 13 miles northeast of Poplar, Montana, so sub-zero readings. And all of these guys, Theta is moving east, Eta is moving towards the north, and then this guy just south of Puerto Rico, likely to develop as the formation opportunities or chances over the next 5 days, 80%, so that's high. So this is the headline for the Gulf Coast, and we'll watch it over the next little while as it does begin to impact Florida through the day tomorrow and into Thursday. And there's the cold with single digits showing up here and there through the Mountain West, Yellowstone, some other locations undoubtedly. I'm in the San Luis Valley, and I'm looking at 22.2 degrees right about right there. Elsewhere, very, very comfortable to the east. And there's where the humidity has come in all out ahead of this deep low that's over the Great Lakes states. And the temperature contrast is just crazy, from almost 70 about Cape Girardeau, Missouri, up to Springfield, where we're in the lower 40s, and then back to Kansas City, where we're just hanging on to above freezing temperatures. There's the snow shield through northwestern Wisconsin at this time, through the bulk of the state of Minnesota. Probably in satellite imagery tomorrow, we'll see that the whole state of Minnesota is now white. And then this guy is advancing very, very quickly on up into Canada right here. Here's the guy. Here's Eta. And then here's another little ripple trying to come into the Pac Northwest with some showers, maybe some snow flurries at the higher elevation, but it's just not moving into an environment that really is that great. And then I'll roll this on forward. And then the West, we really end the week and begin next week under a very potent high pressure, meaning we'll bounce back from the warmth that's been, or the cool air that's been in place. And then here's Eta. I want to watch this baby. We'll see what happens. And then it comes into, just grazes that northwest coast of Florida before being essentially crossing the peninsula, and then maintaining a little bit of an identity off the Carolinas. And then as we move into Friday night and Saturday, the Pac Northwest getting its next round of rains and snows. And then another one just glances the coast Tuesday, Wednesday. Meanwhile, cool high pressure settles in to the lower southeastern states with a nice easterly flow, maybe some showers across Florida, but then that sets the stage for a nice return flow of copious amounts of moisture, again returning, and another return to above normal temperatures for the eastern half of the country, and that's in place probably by 7 days out. All right, you can see the audience is rapt with attention, and we'll kind of leave it there. Good to see you, Robin. Hope you had a great day. A nice, very chilly day here in the San Luis Valley. With frost, did a whole bunch of harvesting and emptied a lot of stuff out of the garden as the sun was setting low in the sky. It's amazing. I took out they were spoiled red potatoes. They had been in the garage just above freezing, but they had reached the end of their life, and so I planted those in May, and they had eyes on them, of course, but they were kind of soft and gooey, and boy, did they sprouted some really nice potatoes, and yanked those out of the ground and cleaned them, and now they're back out in the garage. Yeah, it is time to cover the plants again. Everything's done. The beets are frozen, the carrots are frozen, but they're all doing just fine. They're just getting sweeter and sweeter by the day. All right, have a great night. We'll be back tomorrow with another perspective at 8 o'clock, and then another round of weather at 9 o'clock. It's crazy out there, guys. It's crazy. And I'll see you then, and I'll surprise you with the topic. I'll probably surprise myself between now and then. Yeah, Robin, they were good. Those carrots are so sweet. The beets are sweet. It's just sweet. I can see why you leave things in the ground as long as possible. Ground was frozen. This was virgin soil, too. It was virgin. It was just just sand, and we hauled in soil and we brought in stuff, and it was just really good soil to work in tonight. All right, catch you tomorrow. Have a great night. Enjoy your sleep. In the meantime,